Hi, I'm Emily. Welcome back aboard Sailing Vessel Temptress. This is our 1967 Creekmore 45, and my husband Clark and I are going to be doing some significant renovations over the next couple weeks, and we're going to take you along with us. So hit that subscribe button and come along. We're going to start out every episode with our check-in meeting, where the two of us and all of you sit down together to review what comments came in over the last week, and then to go through everything that we've already crossed off of our to-do list and all the new stuff that we've put onto our to-do list so we can get organized for the next several days of work. So let's do that now.
Okay. First, let me talk about to-do lists. Let me just give a little philosophy here. I'm the old man with the gray beard. To-do lists are vital. They do so much with brain chemistry. If you've got a project that's got other sub-projects and it goes on forever, write everything down on the to-do list. Try to knock one or two things off every day. And when you finish the project, let yourself feel good about it. And when you cross it off, again, let yourself feel good about it. That crossing it off the list is a big thing. You get a dopamine hit. You get some neurotransmitters, and dopamine is the same drug that makes people overeat and gets them addicted to a bunch of different drugs and gets them addicted to gambling. Get yourself addicted to boat projects. Your life will be better and your boat will be in better shape. Okay, so what can we already cross off our list? Well, we got ourselves off this boat onto the other boat, which meant doing some work on the other boat, getting propane working so we can eat, getting the beds set up so we can handle them. We have cleared everything out of at least the saloon of this boat. Some of it's over at the other boat, some of it's shoved in the ends of this boat, but we have a place where we can work. What else have we done? I've forgotten now.
We made a plan.
Okay, behind that couch over there that you can't see that I'm pointing at, it's very similar to here. We had a disagreement. Cushions are on that side, never removed. So the idea was make it beautiful and strip it down about here in this case, and then just slap some varnish over the rest of it after a light sanding and be done with it. Emily said, oh, if you're in for a penny,
do it
you're in for a
now.
pound. Do it all. Lots of comments, both directions from all of you, and here's what we've decided. We're doing it all, but for a reason that's completely different. We want to practice removing the varnish and scraping down to the plywood on a place that doesn't show. So if we were to make a screw up here and gouge into this plywood, we would see it forever. But behind the cushions, we'll never see it. So we're going to become pros and then use our pro status.
Absolutely. Speaking of varnish, we watched the video, and the varnish really doesn't look that bad in the video. But trust us, it looks really bad in person. Like this spot here.
Yeah, here's an
head.
example if you can see it on this. We'll zoom in on this. This is what it really looks like. The sun and everything just made that one panel that we showed you while I was saying it was bad look extra good. It doesn't look that good. It really doesn't.
Yeah, and it's going to look really good, I think, when we're done. We reinforced the deck and tightened down some of the through bolts that were going through deck boards, so now they're actually down and covered in epoxy, so they're nice and tight. All the parts that need to come out so that we can do the repairs and investigate leaks.
The leaks more or less stopped, and we're going to verify that, but we need to dig out all the rotted wood and clean off all the paint so we can adhere new panels on to make it look all pretty there.
And if there are other leaks that we find or other sources of water, we're going to spend some time fixing those. I think I want to do a little bit of work on the propane locker, just evening that out, and there's some puddles where things are holding water, and it's best to just get that water going through the drain.
And we're going to pour some buckets of water right on the deck and see if we have leaks.
Yeah, we've agreed that the ceiling has to be dry, and then pour the buckets of water, and it still has to be dry before we cover it up with stuff. And then you're going to do some work there.
I want to repair this structure here. This is this backrest, and I'm going to drill out all the screw holes and put wooden plugs in that I will then drill so that we can put it back on that way, just to make it extra super strong. It's been 50 years the thing's been on and off on the edge of plywood.
So that is our to-do list for the week. Come along with us while we do it.
It's time to dig away the rot from what's happened over the years. And you can see that this plywood's a little shot here, but mostly it's in pretty good shape. There's other errors. These are pretty cool. They got all kinds of name. I think they call them multi-function tools, which basically means they don't have a name yet. It looks a little like an angle grinder, except instead of the shaft spinning around and around, it just goes back and forth, like really crazy fast. It will cut hard things, but it won't cut flesh, because flesh can just wiggle back and forth. It's like a cast saw. So that kind of makes it, I guess, safer. Not that you'd really press it down on your finger. I got this one at Harbor Freight for like 25 bucks, and it's really great. We use it with this fitting a lot. It's like a little sanding deal, and it goes really, really, really fast, and it's very effective. And it can fit in small places, and we also have a smaller little sanding pad for it. But I'm going to try something new today. This is a carbide impregnated rasp, they call it. Anyway, it should be able to cut anything, metals, whatever, but it should cut wood if it doesn't get too loaded up. And I think it might be just the right destruction product here. I think that's the tool I'll use. I'm going to do a little scraping first with something coarser, a regular scraper to get the big stuff off, because it vibrates like my finger does and it doesn't really cut it, but it went right down to the good wood. That's like an hour of sanding right there. Yep. When you do destruction, you learn stuff. All makes a lot more sense now. Sometime in this boat's history, I mentioned before, this was added to reinforce all around the mast. This big, thick piece of, it's 1-inch plywood was added. We took off the little decorative strip that covered the bolts so we could get the bolts nice and tight. But during the same time, apparently, a thin veneer was added to the rest of the top here. Probably because of the same leak that we're chasing now. And how we know that is Emily noticed over here, we already took it out, but we got another one in this area. They're the original bronze bolts that hold the house on. And they're up under this wood, under a ply of wood. Well, this ply of wood they've added isn't the same quality of what Temptress is made out of. Basically, Temptress's actual bones that she was built with, I've seen very little rot. There's some places where it's rotted, but very, very little. I've seen a lot of evidence where someone's done some work later and used a lesser grade of wood, and that lesser grade rotted right off, and the old wood underneath it is fine. And that's kind of what's going on here. There's very little rot. I mean, it was holding water right on it there, but this area, that's the old wood. And see how nice and flat that came off? And pretty solid. Where what I'm pulling off here is coming off with my fingers. So that kind of makes me feel good. Also makes me feel good about my plan. I think we've actually correctly fixed the leak, one hopes. But we're fixing the aesthetic the same way it was fixed 35 years ago, probably. Now you can see how that ply does not want to go. Basically, I think the water settled on this paint. The paint was impervious to water and just held it right there, and then it got a little bit of a rot. I've owned every scraper in the world. I just bought this one. It's got a little triangle carbide piece, sharp as hell, doesn't go dull. Only problem is that the handle fell right off first time, so I put some super glue in it, put it back together. It's been great. What makes this? Manuf. I don't know, but carbide scrapers better than stainless steel scrapers. Okay, we've had a day of destruction. It was a good day of destruction. All the bits on the ceiling that had any rot at all have been ripped out, and we're going to put new ceiling plywood pieces up to cover all that and fill in all the gaps with thickened epoxy. And it's going to be better than new. And if any of you are concerned about strength there, don't be concerned. That's all underneath propane lockers and underneath things where no human ever stands. And it's very reinforced by other structures. It's just also where the water accumulated. I found that in a lot of places on this boat, the original plywood is really rot resistant. Really quite impressive. This is Manuel. He's working with us. He's the guy to talk to about varnish here in Luperon. So when you come to Luperon, you ask for Manuel. He can hook you up, and he scraped all the ceiling just today, and this is hard work.
It works very hard. Very good worker.
Thank you.
He speaks English very clearly, but he's very shy.
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Thanks for your work.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
We just dropped our worker, Manuel, off on the dock. He spent the whole day scraping down the ceilings. Every time I've painted this before, I just sort of sanded them and put a coat of paint on. Well, he's taken them right down. They're nice and smooth now. He's found some other soft spots. Looks like we have a little soft spot here and the other side, and that would be from the shrouds. So we've got to rebed the little protective deals where the shrouds go through the deck. Pretty easy to do. I should have noticed that before. And he's got some soft spots here he's found. There used to be a track, a travel that went across for a club-footed jib. And then they put this track in, which is a curved version, works a lot better. But I don't really use it anymore. We're debating taking it right out and trying to figure out where the holes were for the old one, plugging them better. I know as I've been replacing deck boards, I've seen little holes that weren't plugged properly, and I put epoxy in them. So this could be, well, maybe old damage.
It's wet.
It's wet. It's not old
It's not
damage
old
here,
There's
but it
holes in the ceiling.
could be the softness here could be old.
Yeah, some of it is.
Yeah.
That, I know when we sail, if water comes in and goes that way, it starts to drip here. If it comes down and rains and goes that way, it's not a problem. So I think maybe just sealing that side of that hatch
Okay.
could fix that.
Could be. These wooden hatches don't seal super well when we have green water coming right over the deck.
Let's
well-
take a look at the ceiling tiles to be replaced.
Generally, we still have a flat piece of plywood, a little harder to see now with all the paint removed. And then we have some areas that were bad. We dug into those. He got all the paint off the area where we're going to do repairs and glue on the new layer of plywood. And that's great, so the glue should stick really nicely. And then he scraped all the other stuff down. We're going to have him sand over it. But he's scraped it all down and gotten rid of probably 8 layers of paint. So that'll make it look much smoother. We've got some other little spots to fix. We've got some more of these bolts that hold this heavy 1-inch thick piece of reinforcing timber in place. And when I've tightened them up, because I've gone through the teak deck now, they're right into the fiberglass, the little ends are longer. So I'm gonna cut them off and we'll fill those holes, much like this one. You probably can't see, but it's nice and smooth. And there's a little bit more rot here than we thought, but once we get it all dried out, find out where the water came in from, and verify it's not getting wet again, we will just seal that all up. The real structure is from here back. This is part of the house top, so this is all very reinforced here on the other side. No worries there. This is what needs to be strong. Anyway, a lot of work was done today. Not necessarily by me. I like that. Well, we've got the ceiling done.
And in the process, we found other problems to add to the list, including fixing the deck leaks, trimming and patching some through-bolt sealer, looking at the old jib track, and making doubly sure that all these leaks are absolutely fixed before we put new paneling on them and refinish them. And remember, we're doing this work ourselves, but we're taking you along with us, and that takes a lot of work for us to do with the videos. So let us know that you're enjoying these videos by hitting the like button, giving us a subscribe, and leaving a comment to let us know what you're enjoying, what you're wanting us to change, what you want a closer look at, and we'll make those changes. we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye. I am going to dig into the propane lock. There is a drain here that lets the water out, but the water has to be high enough that this is the lowest point in order to get it out. So that's why I'm building up with the fiberglass on the inside.
What happened is it broke right off at the threads. It threads into this long nut. It'll all go right back together as long as I can do this threading and get that part out.